Hey, Jennifer, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Hi, nice to meet you, Brian. Oh gosh, where do I begin? I've been in sales for the past 15 years. Prior to that, I was in marketing. Um, I've kind of done the range of things, and when it comes to business. So I started with an early foundation of telecommunications, which are provides a very structured approach to business. I started with Sprint right when cell phones were hitting the market in 1999. And there was a book that they gave every employee called the Sprint Quality Handbook. And I still have that book today, and I still reference that book. And
Oh,
so that's the foundation of my career, really kind of traditional business fundamentals. And then my second career experience was very, very different. So there's a great juxtaposition in there where I went from Sprint to Electronic Arts in Silicon Valley.
wow.
It was a fun range. And I think, if we look over my career experience and we talk about that today, I think it's taught me a lot of things. And I think in sales, one of the things that we have to be is incredibly adaptable and nimble. And I think having a range of experiences in different organizations has helped me maintain that adaptability.
And what was it like going from big company to startup and marketing to sales?
Right.
Yeah.
It was exciting, and looking back, it was really exciting. I had no idea what I was getting into, right? So again, I started with 5 years at Sprint, looking at Excel spreadsheets and spending time in data, mining data through Access database. And, I was just a minion. Our objectives at Sprint were, pay for yourself times two, and, you might get a raise next year at 2% if you did well or whatever. But, so, right. And then I went to EA, which was still a big company, but very different, very software focused, and a very not rigid company. And that taught me to actually hone my strengths in learning some business fundamentals and bringing them to EA, but also to accept, I would say, a different approach to business, which is one which is a lot more open and problem solving oriented. And when I left EA after 2 years, I went to my first startup, and I was the fifth employee at that startup. So we were in seed fund stage, very early stage. And that was a very big change for me, but I felt very well equipped having the Sprint Foundation again and the Sprint Quality Handbook as my reference material, plus my EA kind of adaptable needs to work with a gaming company, and then to bring that to the startup in a range of ways, really in an approach to business where, we started out in a startup, everybody wears all
Yeah.
hats, right? It's all hands on deck. I was the fifth employee. I was the only female there for at least a year. And uh, so essentially, starting out in a marketing role, focusing on, PR and driving users to your website and, refining your message, was just kind of a great foundation for building the company. It quickly morphed into sales naturally and organically because when you're in marketing, you're generating leads. That is your job. So you're already kind of got that sales aspect to it. So I was generating initial leads for our product, which was very, very, nascent and disruptive, but esoteric. People didn't know what we were doing. So my first client for the startup was Yahoo. And they bought an ad campaign through our little network that we had created. And I remember thinking, wow, this was so fun. I responded to an email. The person responded back. They decided to spend money with us. I sent them an insertion order, and now we're making money and, building these assets and, launching a campaign. And that was very exciting because you're like, you see very much a direct result to your efforts.
Your efforts. Yeah.
And
And you
that
like that.
that filled my cup. Yeah,
Yeah.
I quickly got hooked on that. And that is, I think, most people probably who start their career in sales would be to say that there's some addictive quality to the chase and then the kill, right? Or
Well,
the win.
Yeah, because when you work in a big corporate, you feel like you're playing a game, you're playing business,
That's right.
right? You smile
That's,
and you nod and you do what you're told. And,
yep.
but, and that's kind of like what school is, right? You study, you take the test, you pass or fail or whatever.
Yep.
Sales is real stuff.
It is. It
There's
is.
no
And
faking it.
no, there's not. And at that point, my early sales experience was, oh my gosh, it was all the thrill, and none of the hardship. So the hardship being when they start putting goals and they have growth metrics tied to it, and then you have to hit those targets. And if you don't hit those targets, you have to answer to the board, right? When quickly over time, I jumped full into sales and started traveling across the country and evangelizing the product and selling it to large agency holding companies for big brands. And it was so fun. Again, it was just super exciting, really challenging, really fun. But yeah, when you're in hyper growth mode and you're having market success, it's great. I think the true test of sales and a resilient salesperson is when you're selling a product that's a highly competitive and really hard to get traction, and there's a lot of noise in the marketplace, and you have to find a way to stand out and be differentiated. And there's I love that you're doing a podcast about sales, because there's so many special nuances to being good at it, and so much of it has to do with organization, being able to be in multiple roles for the same job, adaptability, and I would say like a resilience is absolutely required, because you get kicked to the curb all the time, and you just have to get used to being kicked to the curb, and you can't let that stop you from moving forward. And I can say, after my first experience with the company, it was called Gray Stripe, where I spent 6 years, and then we were acquired by ValueClick, who became Conversant. I went on to do other sales roles, and I've done several sales roles since. And it hasn't been an easy ride every step of the way, right? And I've been held incredibly accountable to hard metrics, and I've not hit those metrics year over year, quarter over quarter. So, how do you withstand sales in that ecosystem? And how do you achieve results in that ecosystem? That's a very different story, but a very important story to tell. And salespeople need to help each other out at the end of the day, because while we have to be competitive with one another, at the end of the day, we really need to be supportive with each other too, because the world needs us, but companies absolutely need us. There's too much turnover. There's not enough excellence. There's a lot of demand, like, meaning there's a lot expected of a salesperson when they join an organization. Immediately, there's just, the expectations are very high. And there's a lot of pressure in the industry, to perform. So it's a very, very unique business. The other day, someone actually said I'm a very manipulative person because I sell people things for a living. So I was like, thanks a lot. I wouldn't put myself in the manipulative category, but perception is.
Now, I mean, having gone through that, have you found a way of, like, when you go into a startup, because expectations are always too high, because that's how they got the funding. They're not going to get the funding by saying, oh, we're going to see if it works.
Right.
So it's always this straight line up.
You have to manage expectations.
Yeah.
So that's a great, engineers have roles, and they have a job description, and they know what they have to do when they come to work, and they have a list of things that they're working on, and then they can go home, and they might have some QA, and they have their own headaches. But sales, it never ends. It never ends. And you can't get all your work done in a day, because there's always something more you can be doing. And setting expectations and learning to manage up is absolutely a crucial part of the role. So I've been hired for many sales leadership positions, and the founders, the CEOs, the board, they don't always want to hear the market feedback, because the market feedback could be not what you want, right? I mean, just in the last couple of years, I've had to tell some companies, listen, the market's not ready for this. But for some reason, the market is not wanting to buy your product. They don't see value in it. Even though there's ROI, even though the cost isn't very high, even though it helps their business drive results and we can prove those results, for some reason, the market is not ready for this tool, and we need to dig into that, and we need to decide as a company how much we invest in this tool, or if we iterate, if we change, if we take a pivot. And that's hard for them to hear, and they always want to question the salesperson's abilities,
Right, it's the salesperson's
and their
fault.
execution, right? And so you have to be very. I joke about having a sales tool belt. I mean, it's literally a belt, where you have a lot of tools at your fingertips. And one of those tools in managing up and setting expectations is showing what you're receiving from the market. So I always, track all my feedback from the market, every call I have. It really is, if you can provide some numbers and metrics behind the effort that you're placing, it builds a lot of confidence in the organization. So this is why companies like Salesforce have done so well, because it does help empower salespeople to prove themselves to an organization and build confidence that, listen, I am reaching out to X volume of people and I'm getting X percentage of responses. And, if this is the majority of the responses and that the market's not buying it, we need to shift something. So it's sales really does require a lot of tracking, a lot of reporting. You have to have those tools in place, again, to build confidence and trust within your organization. And it helps you manage up. And I encourage all sellers at all stage companies to provide some tracking mechanism, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, or a CRM, because it actually helps you keep track of the business that you're chasing, so to speak, but also to manage up and to help the organization understand the efforts of your work and what you're getting back, because we really are the front line.
And have you been able to help companies get that product market fit? Because
yeah.
And how do you do that?
That's the most fun. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the sweet spot. Like, I mean, I realized I was lucky in my first sales role. I hit a bullseye, and every sales role since, you're trying to hit the same bullseye, right? Like, and I think, again, it's like that sales, that chase, it feels so good when you are successful, when you win a deal, when you hit your numbers, when your bank account goes up with a commission check, and you also just get affirmation from the market, right? Or an affirmation from your organization that we're being successful, we're doing this, I was really lucky to have that experience early on, and everything ever since has just been chasing that same thing. But yes, I mean, the story of specifically Graystripe, which is my bullseye experience, was we built something on a platform that quickly shifted when iPhones launched. So we had to completely rebuild our entire product to support iPhone, which at the end of the day, made our business scale exponentially and changed the entire ecosystem of the mobile world. But at the time, we had built something in Java, and literally everything changed. And the fact that we stayed alive and we were able to pivot and we were able to do it fairly quickly, and then execute was quite phenomenal. And that experience has forever shaped me, in the sense that good leadership is really, really important for the success of a company and the success of a sales team. You really have to have confidence in your executive team and the decisions that they're making and the product that you're selling. And I had a very collaborative relationship with the CEO, where we would meet once a week over breakfast and talk about the market feedback, and he could take that and ingest that information, and he could really think about the product and think about the vision of the company and think about the direction we were going and what we needed to do to continue to be successful. There were a lot of smart decisions made at that company to capitalize on where the money was coming from, right? So at the end of the day, sales is selling a product for money. So you got to see,
Yes.
you got to find where the money's flowing, right? You got to find where the money's flowing. And if the money is not flowing, it's a pretty big sign that something's not right. And I think it's like, how long do you drink that Kool-Aid before you walk away? You know, and I think it's like 12 to 14 months. It's not very long. It's just not.
And have you found a certain things that you look for when you're talking to companies? that
Yes,
when you-
definitely.
Any that you'd like to share?
I mean, sure, absolutely. I mean, you know, again, the pressure and the results that are on salespeople when they join an organization, it's not realistic, right? They think you're going to come in and you're just going to grow their revenue, right? You're just, you know, and they hire you and they invest in you and they resent you because you're paid well, and you know, it's like this whole kind of baggage environment where it's like, you know, you're entering a company in a sales role and you're the holy grail hope, and you know you're going to disappoint them to some extent, because not because you're a failure, but because you're the front line. So you're going to give them feedback that they like, and you're going to give them feedback that they don't like, right? That's the nature of sales.
And how do you manage, because now you're between management and your reps?
Yeah. So you got to take care of your team, number one. Like, I mean, if you're managing a team, you have to take care of your team. That's your responsibility as a sales manager. And oh my gosh, I love being a sales manager, because I just love nurturing my team and I love supporting them. And you know, when you're a manager, you take the hits, and you take the hits, and you're responsible to take the hits, and you empower them as best you can, right? But you know, when it comes to the interview process and selecting which company that you join, and knowing that you're going to undergo scrutiny on day one, you know, you really do need to evaluate the leadership team, the financial status of the company, obviously the product and the product market fit, the history of the company and the success or not success they've had to date, and why. You have to look at the employees, who's churned, who's stayed. You have to talk to them. I mean, it is a gamble, but you can make it now. You can make it a calculated risk by evaluating certain things. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. I get a lot of opportunities and I'm very selective, but at the same time, sometimes you just got to go for it because your instinct tells you, right? I mean, sometimes you just have to. I would say I've had some of my best sales experiences working for people who were incredibly inspiring, even if we weren't the most successful at hitting our goals, right? So I still learned a ton, and I still brought a lot of value to the company. And while that company may not have hit it out of the ballpark, there was still a lot of incredible value that came from the collaboration and managing the company and the workforce. So I think the closest story I have to that is in 2019, I went to go work for a Turkish software company. And yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I literally closed my eyes. I mean, I interviewed with them for 5 months, so I took my time. But once I made the yes decision, it was literally like closing your eyes and jumping and not knowing if you were going to hit the ground. I mean, I had never been to Turkey, right? I mean, if we're just talking about cultural, right? We're talking about cultural differences, right? I mean, but it was just like, we spoke the same language, right? We knew the technology, we knew the product, we understood the global market. I had a foundation that really kind of prepared me for the role. It was a hard role. It was a perfect example where the market wasn't really ready for the product. I thought the market was just going to just eat it up. You never really fully know what's going to happen. But I thought, the market's just going to eat this up. Like, this is so good. Like, this is what people need. And it is what people need. But for some reason, the market just didn't, we had some success. We had some success, and the product's not dead, but it wasn't what we expected, right? We expected really big results, and we were just really surprised that we didn't get them. And it was only a year role because COVID-19 happened. But Oh my gosh, talk about a foundational career experience I will never, ever, ever forget, that paid back in dividends as far as life experiences, work experiences, teaching me things, education, growing. So your life, work, your career, as you know, career you've had, the career I've had, it's ups and downs, and
Right.
everything is a learning experience along the way. And if you can just have fun while you're doing it and grow and learn, and embrace when you're in like a really good thing, like the 6 years I have at Gray Stripe where I had that bullseye experience, like, I mean, I really did enjoy it while I was on the ride. When we were acquired, it was a shock because I was just so focused on the ride that when we hit the destination, it actually really shocked me. Like I wasn't quite ready for it. Because I was just so hyper focused on every day laying the foundation. Um,
How
and I
would you
think that's my approach to life. Enjoy the journey, not the destination.
how would you coach like a leader who's in not a huge company, but let's say a small, under 100 people, and they're a leader and they get the call about a startup and it's their first chance to become a VP?
Be
What,
careful.
sure, but who's
No.
the right person for that and who's the wrong person for that?
Great question. If you're the person that likes you know, your fancy office when we used to go to offices, and your free snacks and, beer 30 every, Friday with curated ale from a local brewery, and, the nicest
The
coffee,
usual day.
yeah, the nicest coffee, like, don't go to the startup. Enjoy the benefits and the perks of the company you're at. If you're somebody who has grit and you're looking for, kind of the nitty gritty experience, and like, you like trial by fire and you like to grow and push yourself, go to the startup. I mean, both are not bad. I mean, either or, is fine. But I mean, not to say that it's not tough being with a mid-sized company, because it is. It really is. Because again, those companies, to get growth year over year, it gets harder year over
Right,
year,
sure.
right? When you get to a certain size company, I mean, gosh, you're just trying to squeeze, growth every quarter. I currently work for a publicly traded company. So, and I love this company, but it's 200 people strong and they've been around for 10 years. So we have, growth metrics, and we have to continue to, find juice out of the lemon. Right. So, and there is a beautiful thing about that challenge, and I very much enjoy it. And I like the benefits. Right. So that's great.
And how about like selling without the brand, right? Because if a lot of reps don't know what that's like, because companies know when they say the company name, they know what it is.
Oh God, it's like a
So,
desert. When you, I mean, I'm going to tell you, just last January, I was at an IAB event representing the Turkish software company. How do you think that felt? Nobody knew who I was, what I represented,
right.
who my company was. I'm at an IAB conference, right? So it's a lonely, dark desert, but it's also really inspiring and really fun. And there's a lot of growth opportunity, and there's a lot of freedom of thinking, and there's a lot of, I guess, I really enjoy building. I
Right.
really enjoy the building process. Like, give me 0 to 10 million and I'm your lady, right?
Yeah.
Like that used to be my kind of sweet spot. Like that was like where I, could just have fun all day, because it's like, yeah, maybe the first 2 million are really hard, maybe the first 3 million, but once you get the
Yeah.
wheels turning, and
Get
it's so
references.
fun, you're just like, oh, this is amazing, right? So that's the startup hardship, right? It's getting that crank turning, and being a no-name brand at an IAB conference, and no one knowing who you are, and
Right.
figuring out how you're going to broker a deal, right? um Hard, but really cool when you make it
Do it.
work. Yeah, when you do it, that's the, but like I said, now I'm on I've decided that, where I'm at right now is amazing. I'm inside a publicly traded company, but working for an incubator, that's funded by the company. So we are still in hyper growth mode, like a startup, 0 to 10 million. But we have the support of a really strong business with proven results and amazing founders who are visionaries, who really believe in, making their company and their portfolio of products and services more robust and technically savvy year over year. So super fun, because I'm still part of innovation. I'm still part of growth inside something a little bit bigger. And I have to tell you, it feels great. So,
Great.
yeah.
Hey, I appreciate your time today, Jennifer. Are you looking for any people?
Not yet, but I will probably give me a little time, probably in halfway through 2021. So just as this COVID stuff starts to hopefully, go away with vaccines and maybe conferences come back, we should see some growth, and hopefully by mid to end 2021 there'll be some growing on my team for sure. And I love nothing more than to work with great sales talent. So a lot of fun.
Cool. And where can people go to follow you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Jennifer Burrington on LinkedIn. They can also reach out to me on email, jenniferburrington@gmail.com. Pretty simple. If you Google me, you can probably find my cell phone. I've given out about 1 billion business cards all over the world over the last 10 years. My phone number hasn't changed. But yeah, I just want to say to all the salespeople out there, hang in there. It's tough, especially during COVID. Don't give up. And lean on your sales friends and your sales community for support. It's very helpful.